Hi there, Jean Greer here at Stylish Fireplaces. Today I want to answer the question, how high should I mount my TV above my fireplace? So I'm going to give you advice based on electric fires because that's my specialty. If you have a gas or a wood burning fireplace, your clearance issues are much different. You've got a much higher heat output to deal with, you've got heat around the fireplace to deal with, and you have to worry about the electronics as well as flammables. So my advice is based on electric fires, which is what we deal with every day. So with an electric fireplace, there's no combustion inside that fireplace. So that means that box is not heating up inside. It is not heating up the wall cavity around it. The heat is blowing out the front of the unit from a slot across the top, above the glass, blowing out the front into the room. It is not blowing up onto the TV directly. And it's a much lower heat output than you would have with gas or wood burning fires. So you're not going to damage the electronics with high heat blowing up onto the TV. Having said that, some manufacturers will specify a minimum clearance of around 8 inches between the top of the fire and a flammable mantle, let's say. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. So with an electric fire, my wall isn't heating up, I've got heat blowing out into the room, and I want to put a TV above. I start with what's comfortable for the TV. So if I'm seated in my living room on a chair and I'm looking across the room at the TV, I'm looking at comfortable viewing height. We have found in our experience, and we've installed thousands of fireplaces below TVs and sometimes the TVs as well, that 42 inches from the floor to the bottom of the TV is the maximum height for comfortable viewing. There are personal preferences for sure. There's all kinds of rules out there about how far away am I sitting, how big is the TV, etc., etc. And if I watch TV lying down and my eyes are looking upward, maybe I can put it a little higher. If I'm putting a TV above a fireplace in a bedroom, the rules are different because I'm sitting on a mattress and they tend to be quite high these days. So maybe my TV is a little higher. But in a sitting area where I'm sitting in a chair like this and I'm looking up at the TV, I'm considering the height from a seated position, and we have found 42 inches from floor to bottom of TV to be the max. You might want a little bit less. That leaves 42 inches to put my fireplace. The most popular style of fireplaces these days is a linear like this one. It's about 17 inches tall. Some are a little bit less, some are a little bit more, but let's call it 17. So I've got 42 inches to play with. I've got 17 inches for the fireplace. That leaves 25 inches to divide between top of fireplace to TV and bottom of fireplace to floor. Many people like to split the difference and go 12, 12 and a half, 12 and a half, 13. That's basically what's happened here with this particular wall. So that all works really well. If you raise your fire a little bit more, you'll have a little bit less space here, and that's okay. It's really about the visual at this point. And we don't recommend that the fires go much closer than 12 inches to the floor because it starts to get lost behind the furniture with these linear ones. So, but you might have to drop it a little bit for personal preference. The one thing that can possibly throw a wrench in things is if you want to put a mantle beam across here. So I've got my fire, I've got my TV, and some people want a mantle beam on the wall where they're doing shiplap and they want a rustic wood beam or something like that. Well, I've got to have space for that beam. Now I can take that 13-inch space and plop a beam in there and that might be fine. But I don't want that beam too close to my fire. Sometimes the manufacturer clearance will, like I said, specify 8 inches to flammables, and maybe my beam is going to be wood. But also just visually, you don't want it to look all squished up in there. So rather than pushing the TV up and making that uncomfortable, I might need to push my fire down a little bit. And I want to consider the thickness of the beam as well. So the beam might be a little closer to the TV than the fire, but I still don't want it to look all squished up in here. So I've got to think about that spacing. So maybe the fire is going to get pushed down a couple of inches to make way for a beam here. So just keep that in mind, because sometimes people have this idea of the beam without realizing that, oh, I'm going to end up pushing my TV up to keep all of this spacing the way I want it. So it might make you think not to put the beam there, or you might have to reconsider how to do the spacing. And it might also influence which model of fireplace you choose, because there are so many options. The average and the popular ones are around 17 inches tall, but we have extra tall, and there are some that might be a little bit slimmer. So there are things to consider. But generally start from the bottom of the TV and work your way down and figure out the spacing that is going to look good to you. And just keeping in mind, generally this is zero clearance, but if your manufacturer says, hey, leave 8 inches between the top of that fire and a flammable mantle beam, then you've got to take that into account just to be on the safe side, and make sure that you have that spacing for your beam. So there are some guidelines for an electric fireplace, how high to put your TV above the fireplace.